Alright, let's continue learning about Roll20. Last time, we made our own macros. So when we selected a miniature, macro buttons would appear, and we could easily roll them into initiative. Now, we do have a dungeon down there, and that dungeon does need to be built, but it did occur to me that I have not talked about token markers in any sort of detail. I feel that token markers are an important part of the game. Starting with 4th edition, status effects became a much bigger part of the D&D experience, and that lingers in 5th edition. There are all sorts of status effects that you could suffer, and keeping track of them can be a pain. Fortunately, Roll20 has a built-in feature called token markers, and that is what we're going to look at today. So, going to my turn order, I'm going to go ahead and pretend we're having a combat here. But everyone's going to have abilities that they don't normally have, just so that we can kind of, dig into this a little bit more. What is a token marker, and how do I get to it? Alright, every miniature, even unregistered miniatures. So let's grab our friend, the unregistered boar. And we'll even roll unregistered boar into initiative with our fancy macros. There we go. Boop. Alright. What are they? What do they do? Every single miniature has access to them. When I select a miniature, you will notice a bunch of stuff appears. If the token is linked, it is fields where we can control hit points, check out armor class. There's also a little setting wheel here that takes you to the settings for the token instead of double clicking on it. But the one button we didn't just talk about was this guy right here. It looks like a little arcade button. For those of you who don't know, an arcade is a place where people used to go play video games using an in-app purchase called quarters. So, when we click on that arcade button, boop, there is a little flyout menu, and it is full of strange hieroglyphics. Now, Roll20 does a lot of things well. But one of the things that they didn't do well is pick out their default markers. They're horrible. After 5 years of complaining about how horrible they are, they finally gave us the ability to make our own tokens, or purchase tokens from skilled artists who could make them. These tokens are so abstract and confusing that they don't even have real names. Like if I mouse over them, what status is Ninja Mask? I don't know. Whatever. Is this poison? Nope, it's just skull. But I thought that was a skull. Nope, that's Death Zone. So, I know that nobody wants to be spending a bunch of money. And I know that you've probably figured out by now that spending money is the easiest way to make Roll20 good. Because that's life. If you have $10... I recommend this Isle of Lore status icons set. 120 status icons that are all colorful, very thick black lines. They read really well when they are small, and they cover everything from being drunk to being hungry, being able to have true seeing on, not being able to see it's all over the place. So much good stuff here. They even have a whole section here, this is how they got to 120 by the way, of how far underground are you, how high are you flying, how deep in the ocean are you, and then just, some duration stuff here. It's pretty cool. It's a good set. I would say that it would probably fulfill everything you needed. If you don't like it, it's too kiddie or whatever, there's a whole store full of icons that you could go and grab. Maybe eventually I'll make a video that shows you how you can make your own. It's not hard at all to make your own set, especially once you figure out what your group needs. But for now, for the purposes of this video, we are going to use the archaic and confusing Roll20 markers. So, what happens with this stuff? Alright, let's say that over here, let's go into initiative, we'll just make stuff up as we go. John Fletcher, he is an archer. He moves up. He's got his crossbow. He's going to take a shot at the boar. He's tired of boars, but, you know, it is what it is. So he kind of looks through the gap in the wall, sees the boar. I'm going to shoot it. All right, he opens up his character sheet, and he's going to take a shot. And we're going to keep shooting until we hit, because we want this video to, you know, make sense. There you go, 23 for 13. A phenomenal shot. Dare I say max damage. So he makes the shot. We go over to the miniature. I don't know. I'll pretend the boar had 40 health total. And now I'm going to subtract 13 health from it. Bam. Now I'm tracking the health. But, John says, this was my incendiary crossbow bolt. So now it is on fire. Okay. So what we do is we go in here and we look for something that would look like fire. Maybe this. That kind of looks like fire. So I select it. And then John says, it's actually on fire for the next 2 rounds. Well, it'd be nice if I could keep track of that, right? Well, you can. If you are mousing over these markers, you will notice that the cursor turns into a little hand with a pointer finger. When I'm mousing over the one that I like, I can actually hit on my keyboard the number 2, and it will overlay the marker. And then when the boar's turn comes around at the end of its turn, I could go back in here and then I could change it to a 1. And then when it comes back around again, I could simply remove it. Pretty cool. It could also be used to track temporary HP. Maybe you decide, hey, my hit points are red, I'm red. I could use red for hit points, or green, because that's what Roll20 decided hit point colors were. So let's just keep going and we'll find out what happens. Then John says, oof, I'm going to hide behind this wall, because dynamic lighting reminds me that if I can't see them, they can't see me, right? So he hops behind the wall there. And to remind you how I am turning dynamic lighting on and off is I am selecting a miniature and hitting Control L. That allows me to jump into the mini and see through its eyes. Alright, next up is Gerblin. And I believe this Gerblin was Susanna. Susanna's got the high ground here, but not high enough to see over the blocking terrain we created. I'm going to hop into her mini real quick and double check. Oh yeah, she's got a perfect shot at Chamomile. So she's going to take that shot. Open up her character sheet. I hold down Alt, double click, and pop, use that short bow. Oh, a terrible shot that misses. Okay. Then I decide she's going to try to climb down from the ledge, right? She's 15 feet up, according to my DM notes. She's going to try to climb down and then rush over to the stairs. The reason she's trying to climb down is 15 feet. She'll take a d6 points of damage if she falls, and goblins only have 7 hit points, so that's pretty dangerous. So what's going to happen here is I'm going to go ahead and open up her sheet, and she's going to make an athletics check to climb down. Oof. All right. Of course she passes for this example. And she climbs down successfully. Now, let's say that she had failed, and I decide that in addition to falling and taking a, watch how easy it is, I mouse over the dice roller, I just hit the d6, it rolls a d6 for me. She falls down and takes 4 points of damage, and I decide, because I added a boar to this encounter and it's going to kill them all, that I need to hand out as much freebies as possible. When she falls, she also falls prone. Prone is great for melee attackers, not so good for ranged attackers. What am I going to do about that? I'm going to open up my markers. Again, select her mini, click on it, and I'm going to go down. And I like to use this guy that's got really bad chronic back pain, and that's actually what it's called, is back pain. So I'm going to click on it, and now I know that she is prone. I also, as a holdout from the 4th edition days, love the bloodied status effect, because it gives players hope. So since she has dropped to less than half of her health, I'm going to use this half heart to let the players know that she is now bloodied. So that is a great target if you're a melee attacker, or you have like a dex-based saving throw spell you could use. So since she fell down and is prone, I'm just going to say that's her turn. She's out of movement. And I will situate her in a space so that, we respect the grid-shaped world that we're in. So already we've got somebody on fire, somebody prone, somebody bloodied. These tokens are helping me track all that. You know what would be horrible is if I was writing this stuff with this horrible mouse tool, right? Like knocked, down, I don't know. And then I'm trying to also, maybe I'm writing it on some paper in front of me at my desk or something. And no. Having these things, these markers, is so important to successfully running a combat and keeping track of everything. It's important. All right, so that goblin's turn is over. That brings us to this goblin. This goblin is going to try to sneak over to the party. Because 5th edition sneak doesn't make a lot of sense, it is going to run over here. It's a goblin, so it can use a bonus action to stealth, so that's what it's going to do. So we'll open up that goblin sheet again, and we'll roll a stealth check. I announced to my players that you have to have a 13 or higher to see this goblin. And then I have the goblin who's hiding in the bush. I'm going to turn on ninja, because ninjas like to hide, right? And let's see. Goblin's hiding there. Unfortunately, you can't add 2 digits to something, so I couldn't put like a 23 on there. So I might actually, to remember, roll like a 13 here. Or, write like a 13 there, just so I remember that they're hiding. And now that it still has an action left in its action economy, it is going to take a dodge action just in case they can see it. So I'm going to go here and select the shield, right? Because that, kind of seems like you're dodging, right? You're blocking attacks or something. So now I know that this creature is hidden on a DC 13, and I know that if somebody does see it and attack it, those attacks will be at disadvantage. All right, it's the boar's turn. The boar takes fire damage, ongoing fire damage from the bolt. All right. Takes 1 point of damage, and that reduces it down to a duration of 1. And then I track the hit point. The boar is super pissed. It is going to come charging at John. It's got a 40-foot speed. John says, whoa, look at how big it is. There's no way it's going to fit through there. And I don't have dynamic lighting turned on this boar, so I double-click the mini, I go and I hit Has Sight, I jump in, and I say, shoot. Yeah, he's right. Okay, so then I say, okay, well, it's going to squeeze to get through there. And now John's a little nervous, because it's going to squeeze. That's no good. So then, again, trying to give the players a chance, I'll say, well, it's so far to, it's such a squeeze, I'm going to roll to see if it gets stuck. So I open up the character sheet for the boar, which I don't have. So I open up my monster manual, and I check for the boar, and it says, boar's really bad at dexterity, but it's pretty good at strength. So I forget to roll athletics, which will probably result in a pass, and instead I roll a dexterity using my dice roller. And I say, all right, according to the monster manual, this thing's got a -1 to its dex, so it got a 9. It actually is stuck. And then the players cheer, because this thing that could definitely murder them has now wedged itself between these 2 stone walls. So now we go in, and we put something here to show that it is stuck. Now, my advice to you, as a group, is everybody needs to be in agreement on what crazy arcane glyphs mean. At least until you guys get frustrated enough to buy some good markers. So, I mean, a web, right? That means stuck. All right, so it's stuck in there. Okay, cool. So while it's stuck in that manner, it has a 0 speed, and attacks against it are going to be at advantage, and its attacks will be at disadvantage. It is wedged in there real good. I could, to even further increase the tension, say, but it still has an action. It's going to use its action to try to break free. And then I go ahead and I roll a strength check for it. But RNGesus says no, right? Because even with like a +3 bonus, that's still a 10. So okay, it's stuck in the wall, and it's just kind of squealing and shaking back and forth. What has it done? And now the players feel like the smartest, coolest people on Earth because, haha, we got that big monster stuck in a wall. And we don't forget that it's stuck in a wall because we put a little spider web on it so that we would remember. Chamomile's turn comes up, and she is going to cast Heroism on herself because bonus hit points never hurt anybody. As she does, we need her to start concentrating. Among the crappy tokens that are provided with Roll20, I always like to use the stopwatch for concentration. Right. Most spells last a minute. An easy way to track duration would be to hit 0, right, for 10. And then each turn that comes up, I could then reduce it by, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Honestly, if you're in a 5e fight and it takes 10 rounds, I don't know what you're doing, but that sounds like a rough fight. So we go ahead and we turn that on to its max duration. And now she gains benefit of Heroism. How do we remember Heroism? Well, Heroism gives you bonus hit points equal to your Charisma. So hey, Strong, that's kind of heroic. And then we'll hit a 3 because she gets a +3 to her Charisma. Now we know that she has 3 temporary hit points from an effect that she's concentrating on. And to zoom in on these guys, right? She's concentrating for 10 rounds, hence the 0. She's got 3 bonus hit points because of Heroism. Okay. This guy's on fire for 1 more round and managed to get itself stuck, hence the spider web. Over here, this lady fell down and hurt herself real bad. She's at less than half health. And then we scroll over here. This guy's hiding in a bush and dodging any incoming attacks from people that might see him. And you need a passive perception of 13 or higher to see him. Thank you, Marker Tool. So, yeah. Would you want to keep track of all this stuff in your head? Absolutely not. Would you want to keep track of it on a piece of scrap paper or a notebook on your desk and have to look at the screen and the desk and the screen at the desk and remember which goblin was which and all that kind of stuff? No. That's why these tools are so good. Marker Tool is great. Marker Tool with good icons, even better. Please, for the love of God, browse the store and pick out a nice set of markers. Some of them are only $5, and use them in your games. But if you do not want to do that, as a group, definitely go through these weird-ass tokens and agree on the most common stuff that you're going to be using and what each one of these means ahead of time so that you're not arguing about it in the middle of the game. Alright, so that's the marker tool. Future video we will cover how to make your own custom marker set, but for now this should be enough to get you going. I will see you in the next video.